We ask for guidance from the universal spirit creator, our angels and our spirit guides, to move from soul to subconscious, from subconscious to conscious being, the higher self. We request protected conduit to the realm of the highest good, aligned only to light, so that we may raise our frequencies for the good of all beings, and so that we may step back to see and to be. We do request 100% connection to source and 100% gold cord connection at heart chakra. With thanks, humility, grace, and love. So mote it be. Welcome to the Infinite Dance. So grateful that you are here with me the day before the total solar eclipse here in the Northern Hemisphere. So it is the 8th or the 11th of August today, and tomorrow is the 12th of August, and that's when that total solar eclipse happens. And boy, we've had a lot leading up to it. Not just I'm calling it the threes or triads that we've had from the total, the full moon that happened at the end of last month. That had the Jupiter Cazimi, and then we had the Lionsgate on the 8th, and now we have the total solar eclipse. So not only are we having that energy happening, but there's so much fire, literally and figuratively happening. This fire horse year is really living up to its name, and it's getting a little bit scary. You know, it's one thing when we're dealing with things we don't need to have in our lives anymore, and we're taking those steps, right? And that's hard. It's another thing when you're dealing with actual fire, burning your home or your friend's home or your business or the land. And it is just a lot. And so before we get into eclipse energies and the akashic messages that are coming through with the eclipse, let's go ahead and take that moment of silence for all those that are oppressed or struggling right now. So we're talking about Congo, Sudan, Palestine, Lebanon, Iran, Colombia, Cuba, Venezuela, Italy, is it France that had the fires too? Canada, here in Reno, Nevada, and Sparks, Nevada, we are having terrible, terrible fires that cannot be contained. They keep growing. Oh, I just got the chill bumps. So let's take that moment of silence to give all extra that we have right now to all of those folks that could use some extra. Thank you so much for taking that moment with me. Um, as I started this episode, I got a big feeling of Archangel Uriel here. And when Uriel is around, Uriel's helping us to navigate natural disasters and/or disasters that are happening in our physical world. And he's talking kind of fast. I'm hearing a lot of things right now, trying to contain what is happening and also everything happening at once, which I'll get into as we delve into the energies that are going on. So, but with Uriel, he's trying to direct the energy to what's most beneficial for us at this time. So really trying to guide the winds away and welcome in some rain. Oh my God. If only we could get rain. And like I had a like flood update on my computer not that long ago. And I'm like, from where? I mean, that would be fantastic if we had water coming in, and all the firefighters and crews that are trying to assist. Um, thank you for all that you're doing. So with the eclipse that is happening tomorrow, so that's a total solar eclipse in Leo, and the last time it happened with this exact pathway that it's on was 1999. And before we get into this eclipse energy, I was talking about threes and triads. So back on the 26th of July, we had the full moon in Aquarius, and it had that Jupiter cazimi, which is Jupiter getting a big blast from the sun. And with Jupiter, we have abundance and expansion with that full moon. And that was the beginning of this energetic and physical triad that is happening and setting a precedence of how we're experiencing what's happening. And I know for me, like that week after, like that Monday after, I think the 26th was a Sunday. So that full moon was on a Sunday. And then that Monday, I had like a weird experience. And then I had another one on Wednesday and then one on Thursday. I'm like, okay, this has to end, right? Um, and they were hard things. They were like made you, it was those kinds of things that were tough. Like, oh, I have to have this conversation with three different, entities, work, home, and my dentist. So it was a lot to deal with in a short amount of time. And what is coming through is what was already beginning to make its way out of your life. So, like, let's say my dentist. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I was already feeling like dreading going, and I know that's a normal thing, right? For a lot of people, don't want to go to the dentist. I've never had that in my whole life. I've always been okay going and had a good experience. But in the last 6 years, it's not been that. And the last 4 at the office I'm at, um, I thought, and here's the thing. I was always just blaming myself, my um, anxiety, my having a hard day, having a hard week, month, whatever it was, right? And when I actually got clear and was like, I don't want this to happen today. I don't have space for it. I can't handle it. And I got pushed back. And it was like, okay, then bye. I got dumped by my dentist. And which I could feel it kind of happening, not in that way, but like my hygienist that was really great left a couple months ago. And so things are different there. The energy felt different. And I was like, I really don't want to go. You know, I know it's supposed to help, but it didn't feel like it was going to help. And that's why we go to the doctor or the dentist or whoever, right? We're going to get help in some way, shape, or form. So that day didn't feel like that. And I got pushback when I set boundaries. And we're going to get into the narcissism that we're all dealing with in leadership, or, you know, you go to the dentist, that they're the experts in that, right? But it's still my body. And if my body can't handle this thing or that thing that day, well, we can't do it. And there's no questioning that, because that's my experience, right? That's with my body. So it was already beginning, right? In some way, shape, or form, you kind of knew it. Like, oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go see that person, or do that thing. I'm not talking about going to work or things like that we have to do. I'm talking about things that we are doing here and there. And they are being cut out completely, right? Like, I got the, okay, bye. Here's a referral to a periodontist. And I even had a dream of like calling my dentist like a couple days later to ask about something. And they're like, oh yeah, you can't even call us, And I was like, okay, that's really weird. But it's that finality of, yeah, you're not going back there. I have like a bill or a credit I have to call them about, but I'm not going back for treatment. Yeah, of any kind. Um, it comes down to trusting our guts too, right? And trusting where we're at with the energies of things that are happening around us, and trusting that you're making the best decision for you and for everybody else. Because if you don't have the capacity to hold something, or be in that space, or be in that conversation at that moment, then it behooves everybody to not do it at that time. So that's really important to embrace. Now let's get into the triads, that I'm calling the triads. So this energetic triad that's happening with, or the cosmology, I guess we could say, of the full moon, the Lion's Gate, and now the total eclipse. And of course, we'll have the lunar eclipse, right? Because the eclipse always happens together in a couple of weeks. But these ones are the big ones. I almost feel like the lunar eclipse is a little bit more of a like, it's easy as far as eclipses go. I'm not saying it's easy, but as far as an eclipse goes, the energy will be a little bit easier to navigate than this total solar eclipse. So I put that the this trio of energies, what's happening, that's literally changing the way we life from here on out. Which eclipse energy always has that, like, okay, let's get out what's not serving to bring in what can, right? But it's not like, oh, it's just an aspect of that person, or an aspect of that, like dentist office. Let me just have a different hygienist. No, the whole thing is gone, right? You're not going there. You're not going to be a part of that. We're getting the beginning, middle, and ending within a short time of each other. So, right, trio of things happening, beginning, middle, end. Um, but it's happening so closely. It's not like, oh, here's kind of a hint of something uncomfortable, and maybe you're going to deal with it for a couple of months or even a year, right? No, no, it's not happening. It's just, it's not going to be a part of your reality anymore. Take note of how this plays out for you. So there's no waiting period to learn the lesson. The action plus the lesson will all happen at once. And so that makes us, I got a vision when I said that of me leaving the dentist office and walking, and I think I mentioned this in the last episode, to the boba place and calling a bestie, right? So I took this action of like, let me not hold this completely in my being. Let me, go to a different area. I'm going to kind of walk and move, right? I had walked to the dentist office anyway that morning. But I thought, let me just change this whole thing, right? Let me change how I'm feeling because I'm getting everything all at once here. And I remember when I was, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the other episode, but I was like engaged in my phone while this was all happening in the dentist office, which is so unlike me. Like, I'm definitely not someone to be like, oh, let me just be on my phone while you're trying to interact with me. Like, that's not what I do. But it felt right at the time. Like I was in some kind of like, you know, like what's happening, and not wanting to give them my like attention at all. That was really weird. Because usually I'm more like I'll confront, but I stated how I felt. I stated my needs, and then I kind of moved on. At least I did, and they obviously did too. So, I mean, in that case, it was what needed to happen. So take note of how everything is kind of happening all at once, right? Um, Threes symbolize harmony, creativity, balance, and spiritual completeness. And I thought that was so interesting because in numerology, and personal, like in a personal, like growth kind of way, three represents inner truth. Um, do you know it? Do you have it? So it can be expanded in the physical world. Okay. So your inner knowing and your inner truth. So it's not just let me go hide and do my thing. It's let me know so that I can express myself, right? Because I know my truth. I know what's going to work for me in this situation. Um, Integration of physical, spiritual, and energetic. And I talk about that a lot. If you've had a reading with me or a session, I talk about um, physical, spiritual, and energetic clearing when we're doing clearings, right? So we're doing the whole being. And that's really, really important. On a religious and spiritual standpoint, um, I'm going to name three in like the triple moon goddess, right? The mother maiden crone, which was my first, I don't know if you could see it, my first tattoo. So that's what the full moon and the two crescent moons represent, is that triple goddess. And in Christianity, it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit. In Hinduism, it's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So those are just three examples of how that relates in spirituality and religion. And it's also a completion of cycles, like I said. Um, Again, when you're getting so much at one time, you really have a chance to go, okay, am I going to go left or right? Yeah. So you're going to make a decision kind of quick because we want to notice our shadows and interact with our shadows, let ourselves feel angry, let ourselves feel the fear, let ourselves feel um, anything that's not great, right? But we don't want to live there. We don't want to live in fear. We don't want to live in anger. We don't want to live in these lower frequencies. So that quicker presentation of all the parts will help us get there a little quicker. Naturally, right? I know a lot of people like to do lots of things that speed up that process, and kind of force it. And that doesn't do anybody any benefits. Um, there's no speeding up, the middle. There's just not. You can't take away the experience that you might have while you're traversing and figuring it all out. So just keep that in mind. The triads and the threes, and we're getting a big dose of that. We're getting a huge, huge dose of that right now with this full moon that had happened, Lionsgate, and the total solar eclipse. So speaking of the total solar eclipse, and I'm just gonna 1 second. I need to get something over here. What are you doing in the corner? Sorry, I got a kitty in the corner. Uh, it is extremely dry here too, folks, which it always is, but it's even worse with the fires. So I'm sipping some butterfly pea flower tea that I made. So it turns blue. I don't know if you've ever had this, so you could see it. And it will turn purple if you put citrus in it. I didn't do any citrus tonight, but it's great for anti-inflammatory. But it's one of those things you don't want to drink every day. So it's something I might have a couple times a week. But it doesn't have a huge flavor, so adding citrus or something else, maybe a sparkly drink like the LaCroix or something. I've done that before, making mocktails at parties, which is kind of fun. To have a blue or purple drink that's not full of sugar or alcohol. So that's always kind of fun. So excuse me for doing stuff with my nose and whatnot. So the total solar eclipse happening tomorrow, the energies that are coming in so clear and so like this is how it's happening. But pattern, person, experience, place, are you done with? What pattern, person, experience, place are you done with? Write that down. Write down what comes. If it works for you to do automatic writing, write that sentence down and set a little timer for, 5-10 minutes and see what comes out. If it's not super clear, but it probably is. This energy is not subtle. It's not, maybe it's that. Like you will know. You will know if something is not for you. And, with clarity comes ways to make a decision, right? Because when you have facts or you have um, you can see the different parts, then you can make the best decision for what you need. And there's nothing better than that to me. Um, Even if something is hurtful or hard, I know I have some friends going through some really, really tough stuff, right? I mean, think about we all are, whether it's divorce or health issues, um, or family dynamics. Um, these are all hard things. They're really tough. But it's clear if that person shouldn't be in your life anymore. It'll be clear what route you should take, or not take, to deal with health. Okay, something will just be like absolutely that, or absolutely not that. Um, and we have to listen to it, and it can be hard because there's so much matrixy, earth life things that we're used to doing things as a certain way. But if it's not to your highest benefit and it's not helping, then it's not worth it, right? And it's a little difficult to find that way that's gonna really help, and be that thing that you want. But again, it might just be signing that contract or not signing that contract. Maybe you don't know what other one you're gonna sign, but you need to sign this one. Nope, I'm getting a divorce. Nope, I'm not going into that, apartment. I'm not going to sign that lease. I'm not sure which one I'm going to sign, but I'm not going to do that one. Okay, so that's how this is looking. Um, this also helps with those that were around that are in leadership, bosses, I mean, worldwide, our government agencies, uh, and the narcissism, the manipulation, the bullying, and anything else that's out of integrity will be so entirely clear. You'll be like, nope, nope, not doing that. Absolutely not doing that. We notice what's not working. We set our boundaries, right? We say, no, I want the blue, not the red. I want to go over to that side, not over to this other area. And when we choose, this option over that option, and we get pushback, that instance, that person, and that dynamic are completely out of integrity. It's not going to benefit anybody involved. And we have to realize that so much of the narcissism that we've experienced and the manipulations that we've been involved with come from there is no integrity, right? It's not like necessarily the other person's going to benefit. I mean, if you've ever been bullied, if you've ever had somebody say something off to you, what are they getting? What are they getting? Like there's nothing that they're getting. So why are you doing it? Uh, it's just for the fact that I can, right? And that's the narcissist mindset. That's what they're thinking. So we really want to go, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going there. That's not working because it's out of integrity for all involved. Okay. So know that. And I know it's hard when you start to set your boundaries and you're like, okay, no, I don't want that. Right. Maybe 3-4 months ago, you knew you didn't want this thing, whatever it is. But when you finally admit it and you say it out loud and it's interacted with, then you're like, oh, okay, it's in this space. So it's going to have that way to be able to interact with. And that's when we can start to make the changes, the real changes, right? That we want. They'll start to happen. And yay, um, for those changes that will help us all, right, live in integrity. And that's what this is all about too. How do we live in integrity and then stay in that integrity, right? We really need to come from a place of speaking our truth. So make sure you're speaking your truth. And even if you get the pushback, even if you get dumped by your dentist, yeah, it's the payoff is greater than the uncomfortableness that you're going to feel in that situation. So, and when we're all doing that, somebody who just wants to do something because they can, that's not great, that's nasty, or whatever it is, they have no power, right? And we're seeing that so much more. I was listening to a podcast, might have been Elizabeth April. She's in that I listen to a lot, but she was talking about remote viewing and, how she remote views and how even people that um, were into drug or human trafficking, aren't being able to sustain that anymore because they're, number one, in hiding, probably, yeah, right now, especially with everything that's going on. And number two, there's just not space for it. People aren't, um, I just saw like bowing down to others in order to gain something else, right? Um, Before there was, and I'm getting like the Harvey Weinstein and all that energy of, okay, you want to be a big star, you got to do this thing that's out of integrity, you know, and people are like, no, I just don't even want that thing anymore then. Like, I don't care. I don't care to have, you know, a big platform or that role or whatever it is. It's just not going to be something that you're going to entertain. And it's happening all over, right? So I thought that was really interesting that she brought that up today too. Or when I can't remember when I think I was listening on the way to work. But that it's not just in our interpersonal lives, it's worldwide, right? It's worldwide. Um, and this eclipse, this total solar eclipse that's happening is in Leo. And one of the first images I got, so here's the akashic message part of when I see the eclipse happening and I view it, it's the sun is acting like our what we've been presenting to the world, okay? How we've been showing up, how we've been showing up with our gifts and all that, right? So it doesn't say that you shouldn't have that gift or shouldn't be showing off that gift. Just how are you showing up with that gift? Um, and there's a mask that's been there, um, shining of what we thought others wanted us to emit. So it's not necessarily how we thought we should show up. It's what we thought others, how we thought others would like us to show up. And that's what we've been doing um, to appease others. And I wrote down false light. So it was this false light because wasn't including the heart space, the high heart space. Not to say there wasn't passion or love, right? But it was coming from mental, right? The mental body. What we thought, right? Someone else or a group or whoever wanted us to be, how they wanted us to appear. So when we get out of the mental and come back into heart, and especially high heart, right? Where we can find that joy, where we can find that 0 point. So we want to get to that 0 point. I get to this point with breath work and meditation, um, and floating. I know that sounds funny, but as now I like to spend a lot of time on water, pools, lakes, oceans, seas, doesn't matter. But when I can float, I get to that point too, um, of like pure bliss without another person, right? This is just within self. So this is just how am I reaching that state, okay, of that 0 point. When we get to that point where we're not judging self or others, when we're not overthinking and coming from our mental body, then we can get to that bliss point, that 0 point, to see things exactly how they are and how they're intended. Okay. So that's really important. How is somebody intending something? Let me take a sip of my tea. Um, are they intending it with kindness and out of heart space? Or are they doing it out of, something else, a lower frequency? But you'll start to see that and you'll start to notice. And so we got Archangel Uriel coming in and talking up a storm, literally. Talk about rainstorm, please. No wind. I just saw we have windy right now. Right before I started recording, we all have the fire app, Watch Duty, on our phones, and I just got another update saying they're evacuating more people, in more areas. So this was just like less than an hour ago. It's just devastating. And it's interesting that there's so much fire energy in the cosmos. Saturn and Neptune are both in Aries. Sun is obviously in Leo. We're in Leo season. Mercury went into Leo on the 10th yesterday, and Jupiter is in Leo. And I think that was the end of July that happened. But Spain had wildfires that started around that time. I think 300,000 were evacuated. And Italy, Canada, Colorado, I know is under a lot of fires right now too. And we have some, like I was telling you, terrible fires here in Reno Sparks, and they're not contained at all and they're growing. They keep like there was two fires, a bug fire and Fred fire, and they actually met each other. So they became one big fire in these two areas. And it's like, holy moly. I know I was listening to Pam Gregory. She's an astrologer out of the UK, and she was talking about Mars being out of balance this whole month. I think that's an understatement. And if you want to know more about that, go check her YouTube out because that's her wheelhouse. But that really caught my attention. I was like, oh yeah, Mars is like completely out of balance. Fire, action, it's just on full throttle. And I just saw when I was speaking that, a foot on a pedal and just pushing down. And there's so much heat everywhere. So much heat. I mean, what do we do on Earth? You know, in the area that you're in, if you're in the Reno Tahoe area, I know Grand Sierra Resort and the Silver Legacy casinos are all taking donations to bring to firefighters and families. And I know they all have like $50 rooms for those that are evacuating with no, resort fees or anything like that. So they're definitely trying to help in all the ways that they can. Those are just two I know. I know there's probably a lot more that are happening. I just have not had time to research all the other ones. What else to do? I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here. And if you've been listening to this podcast and had sessions with me, getting still is one of the easiest things we can do, guys, to not fuel things like that are out of our control, right? When we're not fueling the thought. When you're having monkey mind, you're actually not fueling anything. It's just on repeat. Okay. So when you get still and give yourself a guided meditation, there's so much out there for free. YouTube, Insight Timer is a free app you can use. I use it all the time. They have got great guided meditations, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. Pick your, time that you can work in. But when we give ourselves the space to get quiet and get still, then we're not fueling these fires. Okay. And I know that's more of a mindset too, right? Obviously we need water and no wind, to help these fires to be put out. So get still at any turn. If wherever you're at, you want to do a sound bath, if you're drawn to somebody's sound bath or sound transmission, do that. Maybe somebody does a guided meditation or a breathwork session. These are all ways to help you get to that place. Okay. And I enjoy Wim Hof breathing too. That's where you do a lot of breath holding. So you're not even fueling your breath. You're really being still. And it's interesting when you find something that you do over and over again, but you have different experiences within it. I've always loved that. And I did a lot of that breath work for a while, and then I stopped for a moment, and then I picked it back up. So those are just some things that I've been doing that have helped, and resting, And it's so funny too, when I've been resting, I have been drawn to look for older, like 1990 movies from the 90s that I haven't really seen, or if I did see, I just didn't remember. Like they weren't the big hits, right? Or at least I didn't remember them being big hits. But I watched Fallen with Denzel Washington, which was really cool. And that one was like a mystery thriller kind of thing. It was a little bit scary because there was like a demonic possession that would happen. So there's definitely that edge. But there's something about 90s movies where they talk about like hey, are you still dating that nurse? Like talking about what kind of easier things while something hard is happening. I was watching, the other one I watched was called Striking Distance, and that one was I don't think I saw that one, or like, I don't remember at all, but it had Bruce Willis and Sarah Jessica Parker. and a couple of other folks, I'm forgetting their names. Those are the big names, but if you see it, you're gonna recognize some of those faces. But like at the beginning, Bruce Willis's character and then the his dad in the movie got in their car to go to some, event, or they're both in the police force, and they got a call, right? And as they're in the high pursuit of a perpetrator, right? Um, the dad's like, so hey, are you still dating that nurse? Oh no, I'm not. Didn't work out. Well, hey, I really want some grandchildren. And they're just having this little whimsy conversation while they're, in hot pursuit of a criminal. And it's like, what? And I think the 90s movies, they just do that. They have this like sense of cheese, but cool. Like it's kind of funny. Anyways, so that's been giving me a little like joy for some reason watching these older films that I hadn't seen before, or maybe I didn't, I just forgot from the 90s. But anyways, so those are just a couple I watched. Um, I hope that you got a lot from this session or this episode in regards to things happening in threes and how to navigate the eclipse energy that we have coming up tomorrow. And I am going to be working while it is happening. And I always think, and tomorrow I'm working actually at the spa. So I will be in session with clients. The spa smells good. We've got aromatherapy going. It's quiet. There's quiet music. So people are always happy to see me. They're about to get a massage. So everybody's in a good mood for the most part. Um, and if they're not, they're about to get a massage. So you're probably going to get in a good mood. Um, so I always feel kind of blessed when there's something that's happening and that could be abrasive. And I'm kind of in this kind of cocoon of ease. But I'll be doing a lot of stuff in the morning and then in the evening when I get home to integrate the energies of the total solar eclipse. So continue to peel back the layers of your amazing being and continue to ask yourselves and each other, may I have this dance? Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.